You are listening to the Get Global Network podcast of the Ask Avani Show. You can hear the show live on Saturdays at 3 p.m. in London, 9 a.m. Central Time in the U.S. on SoMetro Radio, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network.
Good afternoon, this is the Ask Avani Show right here. I want to say a big welcome to everybody wherever you may be, UK, USA, Europe and worldwide. You're in the place to be, and this is your regular stop with me, your UK soul diva, right here on the Get Global Network. I have a very special guest this afternoon, Mr. Yaseen Aslam, co-founder of United Private Hire Drivers. Hello.
Yeah, hello there. Hi.
Hello, thank you so much for giving me some of your time today. Can I ask you, because basically, you know, you and James Farah, you were two Uber drivers, previous Uber drivers, and this is a big deal. I've been wanting to speak to you for such a while because what you did when you challenged the company Uber, please can you tell me, why did you want to take Uber to court?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a problem. Yeah, I mean, going back I started working for Uber in July 2013. So Uber first came to London in July 2012. When they first come to London, they started off with their Luxors, which was the high-end cars. In July 2013, that's when they introduced the cheaper version, the X version, Uber X, which is mainly like Prius and cars like that. Now, I've been a minicab driver, and this is in London, we call it minicab drivers, so like a private hire driver, so we're licensed drivers. It's like an occupation, a job that we do. So I've been doing this job 10 years, for over 10 years. So when Uber first come to London, I was one of the early drivers to start working with them as a driver. So to me, it was like a new concept. Customers loved it because the way, like, there's no such a thing as app before Uber. So like you could see the car, you could see the driver coming towards you, and the price was a lot more higher when they first come, and they had all these bonuses in place to get drivers in and also attract customers by giving them a £50 voucher.
Oh, wow.
Now, it was, I mean, how it worked before Uber was I would work for a local cab office, okay, and I would have a human, a controller, controlling and dispatching the job. So if you needed a cab, you would call the office number and say, blah, blah, you want to go from A to B. Then the controller would then dispatch the job to the nearest driver or whichever driver he wants to give the job. Now, trade has always been rotten, where if you were a good driver, you'd be okay, where at the same time, you were at the mercy of the controller. If he didn't like you, it means you could have a shit night. Yeah. Now, when Uber come, it was an app controlling us, giving us the job. So the nearest driver would get that job, and you had no one bossing you about. You were in control, and at the same time, a lot of people, the reason why they go into Uber is because of the flexibility side. Now, compared to the States, it's a lot different here, where drivers that come into the trade as a private hire driver, they have expenses like insurance. So you need to, like, for example, a normal car insurance will cost you, like, let's say £600. But if you want to drive as a driver, you got to pay £4,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah? So, and you need to get a license, you know, like a PCO license from TfL, Transport for London. So again, that gets renewed every 3 years. You got to get your car license. Again, that's another course. You got to take your car for an MOT every 2 years. So you get all these other little bits and pieces, the fuel cost. So it's not just something that anyone could do, where in the States, it's like anyone could become a Uber driver in some places. So there's not like, it's just a lot more easier. Where here, when you come into it, you set off with a certain amount of money that you need to make before you offset your costs.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what happened is, going back into when I started working, at first it was brilliant because Uber used to give us £10 bonus for each and every job we do. Forget the fares. If I went out today and I'd done 10 jobs, I would make £100 just in bonuses.
Wow.
So that was good money. And then you do the fares and you go out thinking, you know what, it's all right. And the rates that time was £1.75p a mile.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Going back 10 years ago, the rate was £3 a mile. Okay. So when we got looked into it, and if I referred a driver over to Uber, I got paid £500. So the first year I managed to get about 10 to 20 drivers over to Uber, and I got paid commissions, etc. Now, it was all good, but then going forward, the bonuses went down slowly, like as Uber got bigger, and they started getting more and more customers, and I could understand that. So, for example, the £10 then went to £9, £8, then eventually £1, and eventually got taken off us, yeah?
Oh, wow.
But that wasn't the issue, because we knew that it was temporary there. It was just there to boost up our earnings while we were working. So, typically speaking, December 2013, I was making £1,000 after all my expenses, working 40 hours a week. Now, that was very good money.
Yes.
Okay? But we started having issues. I had these little WhatsApp group with my mates on this WhatsApp group where we used to talk and chat and find out where to be, what's happening. You know, like it's just a general chit-chat communication while we're working. And what we tend to find was drivers getting kicked off the platform, because of the rating system. Like if a customer badly rates you, complaints, drivers getting assaulted. That is our main issue. Like, for example, in a nutshell, I could pick you up, you could be racist, you could assault me, you could then make a complaint to Uber, rate me 1 star, which means I'm going to lose my job because the rating has an impact on you. You also could make a complaint, get a refund for the route, where me, as a driver, I can't do anything. And this is me that got beaten up by you, got sworn at by you, and potentially got a bad rating over it.
Oh, wow.
So this is where the issue started, and we started thinking, you know what? What are we doing here? If Uber becomes a giant, which it is today, and all these other cab offices are dying, we got no rights.
Right.
You know, and people talk about the customers, like when you get customers getting assaulted, you know, like all kind of other incidents, yeah? They do happen, but no one's willing to look at the driver's side.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, and I know, you know, like I've been doing this job for 10 years. I had a good mate that actually died on the job, got killed. So we get those kind of issues. Now, my co-founder, James Farrar, and he's also the co-claimant in this case, he got assaulted. Now, it took him 10 weeks just to find out who the customer was.
Wow.
And the police were there at the scene. He had a police report. The police contacted Uber. He contacted Uber. But Uber refused to hand that information over to the police. Then eventually the police have to get a court order to get that information released.
Wow.
So you understand? So, but let's say, for argument's sake, it's something very, God forbid, something really bad happened. It's just like where in the olden days, what used to happen is, let's say I had any issues with a bad customer, I would just radio into the control and he would alert the drivers in that area to come and assist me. Right. And that could just mean drivers come into that area and it's a deterrent, like protects, sort of potentially anything bad happening. Does that make sense? So I could have a drunk driver, I just want a witness there, you got someone there. Now, we talk about technology. It's brilliant, yeah? But it's not being programmed to protect us.
Right.
Yeah, and this is where our case started from. In 2000, I got deactivated. I started campaigning in 2014, and we started to build a little movement, and we were called London Private Hire App-Based Drivers Association. And that was in conjunction with the drivers in New York, in San Francisco, and also in LA, because they had their own little branch. So we started thinking, you know what, we need to start organizing here. So we started organizing. At first, Uber's office, Uber staff met with us, and we had a few conversations, send the email backwards forward. These are issues. It wasn't really about the pay at the time.
Right.
But later on, we started seeing the fares go down and down. And bearing in mind, Uber started off with 500 drivers. Today, they have 40,000 drivers in London, 5 years forward. The rates are now, the cheapest rate was 75p a mile. Okay. Now, the thing is, this case that we started off was for worker status.
Right.
So as a worker, it gives us some basic rights. And I just want to touch on that because there's a lot of people are confused and assume stuff. Getting the worker status does not mean we're employees.
Right.
So in this country, according to the employment laws, there are 3 status. One is self-employed, one is employees, and the third one is worker status.
Right.
Now, employees have certain rights. They have a lot more rights out of everything.
Yes.
Where self-employed means you're self-employed, you're the boss, I could decide, I charge what I want to charge.
Yes.
I decide who's my customer, who's not my customer. Okay, so it's just like, I mean, in our case, the judge ruled that we're workers. Now, as a worker, we're still self-employed. Okay? But what it means is if we're working for one firm only, we're then entitled to certain rights. So, for example, if I work for Uber for the whole year, I'm then entitled to 5-week holiday.
There you go.
Okay? I'm also entitled to, for every hour I log on, the minute I log on till the minute I log out, I'm entitled to earn the minimum wage per hour after expenses.
Right.
Now, currently, the London living wage is £9 something. The minimum wage is, I think, £7.50. I can't remember what it is exactly. Yeah, but that's after expenses. So generally speaking, if this ruling was to be applied and enforced, it means drivers need to be earning minimum of £15 to £20 an hour. Okay? Now, that's not our problem. That's the law and the judge that ruled that's what we are, workers. Okay? Now, Uber claimed drivers are making 15, 16 or 18 pounds an hour. But it's clearly not the case because in my role in United Private Hire Drivers, we come across many drivers and every single driver is struggling to make that wage. Okay? Now, it's very easy for Uber to make things right. I mean, from my point of view, if we were to apply this worker status, what they need to do is stop reducing the fares and stop recruiting. Now, the way Uber model is based, it's about flooding the streets with as many drivers as possible and with no liability to them.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it's like if you're a radio presenter, have as many presenters out there, as many shows as you can, squeeze them all in. You know, like it's So the thing is, it's about flooding the streets with drivers and reducing the fare to get more and more customers.
Wow.
Okay. Now, occasionally we do have surge, which does help drivers and top up the earning, but that don't happen. And I've seen that surge go down, smaller and smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. So the reason why we need this worker status, because when we talk about the gig economy, such as Uber, and by the way, gig economy did exist before Uber. Yes. It was like working cash in hand and stuff like that, and no one talked about it. So what the gig economy, in my view, is doing is legalizing workers or companies so they could exploit their workers legally.
Yes.
That's what it's doing. That's what it's doing because it's either you're a company, a minicab company, and you need to look after your workforce. If you can't guarantee them basic stuff, you should not be in business. Okay. Now, in Uber's case, they are making a loss, but that's down to their, what they're trying to do in the long term. Yes. Driverless cars, other project, having money in Holland, offshore, to save on tax. But as my concern to me is making sure that every driver working on the platform, whether it's for Uber or any other company such as Uber, they are getting that basic rights, because it has other effects on the people. It has an effect on your family life. Drivers working 80, 90 hours.
Yeah, you never see
sleeping in the car. Sleeping in your car. What kind of life is this? And in the UK, we have these employment laws there. And in our case, we prove that we're right on the right side of the law. The only problem we have is that law is not being enforced. Now, unfortunately, companies like Uber, they have the money and the resources to go and fight us. And what they're doing is they're fighting us and denying us our basic rights.
Yeah.
Like, what are we asking for? Basic pay? And if we're making that, as they claim, they just need to say, yeah, fair enough, have it. Pay the drivers. That's what it comes down to. But they don't want to, because the model relies on having workers they could exploit.
Yes.
So, for example, give it like another year